elections today, we'd like to talk a little bit about the uniforms and clothes that we wear, as well as the instruments themselves, to give you an idea of, well, the differences between the music of the 18th century and the music that we have today. So we'll first start off with Peter, and Peter's wearing a regimental coat of the 1st New York Regiment. And the 1st New York Regiment was raised in 1775 to invade Canada, which was not successful. The difference between his coat and the enlisted soldier is this. The enlisted soldier just had the blue coat with the red facings, but if you notice on his sleeves, and even on his back, there's this red tape. And the idea of putting tape or lace on the coats is a European tradition to distinguish musicians from just the common soldier. So it's a way to find the soldier, the drummer or fifer in the field of battle. And it's also, in a sense, like the drummer or the fifer was almost like a servant to officers and to the regiment. Besides playing music, they also did different chores. They acted as waiters to different officers. So they were thought, it's almost like a livery suit like the wealthy had in the 18th century too. Same type of idea. Vincent and I are wearing militia clothing, so essentially this is just the civilian clothing of the time, and the militia would have drummers and fifers, just like the regular army, to perform all the camp duties, to perform different tunes for the march, and everything else that was part of the military discipline. And lastly, we'll talk a little bit about some of the instruments, and we'll play a couple tunes for you right now, and while we're up on the porch, we'll play a few things. So if you have any questions about the music we have while we're performing then, let us know about that. But the two instruments that we have here, and when we marched up, you got to see, were the fife. And Vincent, you want to hold up? The fife is usually a one-piece wooden, or sometimes brass or pewter instrument. It's a simple flute. And this instrument probably goes back to about the 1000s, and it's been modified over the years. But it's not much different from the instrument of the Middle Ages, which came probably from the Middle East during the Crusades. Now, the instrument that evolved from the fife is the flute. And the flutes that we have here are copies of mid to late 18th century flutes. The flute was pretty much exclusively a male instrument in the 18th century. Women would play more like the harpsichord or the guitar. But men in the 18th century, and like someone like John Andre, played the flute, the transverse flute. The flute is made out of maybe 3, 4, even 5 different joints, and it could perform more complicated music, and it plays more in tune. The idea of the fife is to play with the drum so that it could be very shrill and overheard during a battle, or it could be used to give commands to hundreds, if not thousands, of men. But the flute, its bigger, more sophisticated brother, I guess you could say, is more of a parlor instrument, maybe used in bands, but for the most part used in orchestras and used in chamber ensembles, for sonatas, for dance tunes, for different things like that. So this is not really the military instrument. This is the more refined version of it. So we'll showcase the difference between the two types of music. The first piece that we have is Chester, and Chester was a hymn composed by William Billings in around 1770. Chester was also adopted by the military. It was used for 2 different purposes. The first being the tattoo or go to bed call on Lord's Day evening, on Saturday evening. And also it was used as a quick march on Sundays. Particularly in New England, they didn't like to play secular music on the Sabbath. So instead of playing a popular tune for a march, they would play Chester, this hymn tune. And our second piece is called Cold and Raw, or Juice of Barley.